Good day, friends. Welcome to yet another Gords Poetry Show, number 83. And it would be outside with the chirping birds and sunshine, but for the fact that it's very hot out there and it keeps raining. And not a good day to be outside. But we will get back to the garden when the weather stabilizes. So this will be one of those welcome to July poetry shows. Welcome to the instability of July. And we'll continue on at a leisurely pace as we've more time this time with some of the poets that we read before. Bardia Sinaee, his new book Intruder, which for our first book is very good. Although I am always talking, there is an air among these miniature plateaus of childhood tucked away. Sunlight disappears here like cheddar into a dog's mouth. This is my desert island mood, as free, surely, as I have ever felt. I have the muted, toothless hunger of a worm dividing itself, the eagerness to occupy your disregard. Love outside of habit is occasional, punctuated with fatigue, like the weather. My million contrary espousals, my regimen of sleeping late, my clear city streets, reveal a life lived outside of any local sense. I have conquered vast provinces. I have tasted every species on the mountain. I've got a bit of an eye infection here. My sight isn't as wonderful as it ought to be. A life lived outside of any local sense. I have conquered vast provinces. I have tasted every species on the mountain. Flyover. People are in the news for licking ice cream in the store and putting it back. One is facing 20 years. The plane dips like a warm spoon into the clouds toward gridded subdivisions, in ground pools like marble slabs. Pedestrians cross a wooden walkway suspended over a large pit filled with construction beams. My ear pops. As ever, much of the populace is employed in actual trades. Then there are the analysts, manipulating symbols. Lawyers and coders. I could sell a think piece like polyamory to housing costs, or linking polyamory to housing costs. I'd like to see that. It's hard to justify a harsh sentence for the ice cream lickers given the unmitigated contamination of the future as a whole, the hollowing out of so-called flyover country. I should have taken the train. I would have been a musician if I'd had more talent and less good sense. Each month I put a little bit away. The commentariat is divided over the fascist movement, a looming threat or a rock in society's shoe. I'm not sure where I stand, but I'm looking at the situation from a distance. I'm making a list. Good for you. I wish I could make a list. I tried to make lists, but they get horribly confused. The Scorpion and the Frog. The ladies take their tea into the parlour. The neighbour calls Morris, her tabby, in from the courtyard. The language exercises carry on into the afternoon. When we sleep, we must never trust a lazy dog to guard the hen house. Is this correct? My, what a buttery loaf. Who can say what the tale of the Scorpion and the Frog teaches us about trust? When we dance, when we pace with grace, we land on the soft sea. But it's that element of risk, a sheet of air under our feet, that makes the frog say, okay. Yes, a fine sense of wit there, Bardia. Stephen Roxborough, I feel your donut pain, and you'll recognize that green lady with the red thing across her eyes. This book is reacting angrily, vociferously, passionately against the country that America became under Trump. And Stephen was not at all in favor. And seemed to adopt the personality of people like Abby Hoffman and other political activists and radicals of the 60s. And an appropriate stance to take, I would say, in those times. And maybe still, even under the new administration, which seems significantly more sympathetic, understanding, flexible, and, how shall we say, loving. Dust the edges of the ledges of your kindness. Clear the cobwebs of your consciousness. Dive into your ocean mind. Empty your trash. Let go of the cash. Sit for a bit without chat or bite. Forget about regret and all that rot. Take a ride inside on a higher plane. Take imaginary train of no thinking thought. Because third eye vibration is the new medication. Your true intention becomes your next creation. The further inside, the deeper the ride. The higher you fly, the more you rise above. The disguise of pie in the sky, of blood in your ear and mud in your eye. Yes, let us ride high. The etiquette of regrets. We're all full of advice. We don't follow ourselves. It's just the way we're made, to hope others won't disappoint as much as we have. Damn America, you inspire and depress me, all your promise and potential, yet all your profane detours along the way. Try to keep your standards high and your digressions few. Try not to underachieve, even though achievement is a standard we set from our own regrets. Better than America. I know a place, she said, that's better than America. Everything is better there, including all the weather there. The ocean, the beaches, the food, even the water and air. And everything is affordable if you can make your life portable. Nothing is very far. You don't need a car. You can walk anywhere by stairs to a star. There's anything, everything, or nothing to do. The beer gives me a buzz and reminds me of you. Last but not least, the people and dogs and police are much friendlier there. What the hell are we doing here? Blinded by hindsight. They say it only takes 3 breaths to let any thought go, but if you elect the wrong president, it can take 4 years to let go. Some relationships take longer to fully let go, and others spend lifetimes working the kinks out. Seems we're better at attaching than detaching. Seems we're better at voting against than choosing for. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, said the only American Renaissance man. But nobody listens to Ben Franklin anymore unless we're talking $100 bills. Counting for inflation and appreciation, the prevention figure is £200 by now, which suits Big Pharma just fine. Ben touted beer for the working man, but he personally favoured fine wine. One of the reasons he accepted that ambassador gig in France. No blood pressure pills back then, only the company of beautiful French women. Speaking of prevention, what a perfect military strategy to tactfully avoid conflict. Everyone saves face and everyone saves their bacon. Some things can't be avoided, but whenever necessary, the path of prevention will often make you look wise. Look wise. Life is a museum. Fill yours with art and memories of people you love. Think of every object, every tool, every experience, every thought as art, or the potential to make art. You'll create a life and full of travel, challenge, surprise, and growth. When you grow old enough, your mind will be the main library for your family. Respect and cherish your museum. Invite young people for conversation. Teach them how to create their own museum. Show them how a small object contains a universe, how a poem can make a difference, how one life can change the world. Ooh, idealism, it's a terrible thing. It makes you believe in a better world. And often that world is very difficult to achieve. Embrace your inner revolutionary. The genuine far-sighted visionary, the flexible philosopher-poet, the outcast, the offbeat, the out-of-the-box, wayward original thinker. Be careful of the company you keep. Stay away from rigid, prickly, rule-driven, controlling, bomb-throwing, uptight, mediocre minds. Beware the dim, dull-witted, plodding, leftover, far-right, one-wing lack of humour man. Don't follow the followers, the disciples of doublespeak and desperate dogma. Don't follow the factions of fear and invaders of privacy. Don't read the rewriters of history. Don't follow the leaders of the followers. Double think, double think. The sheeple will destroy all the hope, and may the controllers and order enforcers stay fast asleep and out of your dream. What to do, what you need to know, what you need to fix, what you need to make, what you need to grow, what you need at your fingertips, what you need to understand, what you need to be a man, what you need to be a woman, what you need to make a catch, what you need to learn to earn, what you need to ease the pain, what you need to please again and again, what you need when you don't know what you need is a friend indeed. YouTube it, YouTube it, YouTube it. It's becoming the way, isn't it? Everything's on YouTube. I almost looked at it today to learn how to fix something. And it didn't get there, but I probably will later. Theory versus behavior. The unified theory of everything is hard for humans to imagine because we get distracted by atom bombs and God particles, to kill and create our nature, to classify and divide into subsets of subsets, until we're silly busy fighting over parallel universes when we can't even get one country right. Better to focus on why we're here. We'd create more time and space and we'd leave a better place behind. The key to my equation is the perpetual vibration of universal heart expansion. Yes, I sure agree with that. Thank you, Stephen. And here's another Stephen Heighton, Selected Poems. A fine volume. And a fitting flag to mark mid-career for this Canadian poet, who I think is not as celebrated as he might be. I've been fond of him for a number of years. I mean, who could resist a title like The Ecstasy of Skeptics? A little sip here, I think. Getting a little dry. Birthday. Mornings, the sunbeams' flowing escalator drew up at your mother's door, drew up your eyes and weaned them from the damp veranda, while 9 months new you crawled under the window where your mother baked. Called and called to at 10 months. You pressed on, turtled down to the garden, bold turtle without a shell, back damp with dew from drooping poppies, as if wet from the egg. And your mother must have felt a tugging, a pang at the navel, as if the scalpel never sheared your navel, as you pulled away from her into the damp and drying world, a third eye in the belly you both once saw from. When? Welling damp with sweat, fierce scalpel at the heart, sawing, stabbing. A month older and her heart could hardly stand the laughter as you in your damp bulging trousers tried to stand until, for a moment, you stood. And never mind that 2 steps later you tumbled in the sun, or that a month later in the autumn sun you'd still be falling. To her, at the door, hands damp with frosting, you'd roamed beyond all reeling back, even though now she recalls you for the cake she holds in the doorway, calling, calling, while years away in the roses you break and bury her heart in the garden to grow. Conversation in a gallery. The exhibition halls were deserted. Occasional guards dozed awkwardly at their posts, like unfinished statuary. It seemed it hardly mattered what I stole or took the trouble to deface. In the viewing room, I thought I'd almost stumbled on another visitor. It was actually a life-size statue set in place before a wall of staring portraits. Art paying attention to art. Life imitates nothing without our eyes, and finally ghosts all we do with a fine film of soil or dust. And yet, as at a conference of adepts, art scholars, psychologists, or the collectors of china or rare insects, there is this traffic between dignified stone heads or heads in dry oil in a dialect no one else knows, which is therefore silent. Silent as this gallery is now, with its long row of reluctant jurors who are going to have to accept the coming verdict, and really would like to know how for so long these desiccated gazes drew you into a fool's auction and sold you their hourglass shares of time, past and future, in exchange for all your currency, in exchange for perfect rhymes and resonant conceits that might survive the moment or the era. The inconvenience of, say, a lover or a child is nothing. They whispered for what seemed like a long time. I paid attention to their words, while the wordless trials of a lover turned the room into a ghost gallery of cases, closed, and I paid and I paid and I paid. Some reflections on other poets, classical poets, not so classical. Catullus, 65 BC, like a man. Enough of this useless moping, Catullus. It's over, write it off. Back then, when she was yours, the sun always shone and you were on her like the sun, insatiable as she was, and she'll never have it so good again. Always at her heels, her side or inside her, Catullus, and that was fine. Whatever you wanted, she wanted, and the sun, there's no denying it, always shone. Now she's changed, gone cold, and you have to be the same. You will. Not pitiful like this, no whiner, idler, sorry stalker, tavern fixture. Take it like a man. So here's so long. When Catullus makes up his mind, girl, that's it. He won't come haunting your doorway nights like love's hunched beggar. But then again, who will? Your nights will be as cold as his. How will that suit you for a life? Who will come to see you then? Who will flatter you on your looks, give you what he gave you all the time, and take you around, kiss you, be your fan? And you, girl, who are you going to kiss? Yes, and bite. Ah, Catullus, enough. You know it's over, and you're taking it like a man. The mover seems to be after Valerio Magrelli, 1992, and a little quote from Vladimir Nabokov. What is translation? On a platter, the pale flaming head of a poet. The mover who means to clean out my room is doing the same job as me. I too move something, words to a new building, words not mine, setting hands to things I don't quite know, not quite comprehending what I move. Myself I move, translate pasts to presence that travels sealed up, packed in pages, or within crates bearing the inscription, fragile. Don't know what's in them. And this is what the future holds. This shuttling, the metaphor, the tense and manual grammar, the transfer, the figure of speech, the moving company come to move you. The Last Reader. Not dedicated to anyone in particular that I can see. The woman whose eyesight is fading tries to read her son's first book. It's long, 300 pages, and she can take in a page a night, at best. When the doctor says she has less than a year, it's not her eyesight he means. As she reads, death gets on with its own cunning work, studying, mastering the subtle codes, transcribing her syllable into the vast anthology of the dead. Death never doubts itself, as her son she knows must do. Death gets it right each time. She reads till all sense stops rising from the page. This plot no lamp enlightens. A week's worth left to be unveiled. In the still encrypted world, she and her son, the last reader and writer. Yes. An elegy years after Sarah. So, her ceiling, a map of stars. First time we made love late afternoon, late winter, and after, as she slept, how her room fogged up with dusk and paper stars she'd stuck up there in childhood. Came out in strange constellations, and I missed the earth, till her room was night, her breath deepening the stars cooling down. And I said, come closer, and her eyes, half open, flashing back whatever light there was, went out. A lot of finality in these, Stephen, and obsessions with endings. It's a thing I see many poets reflecting on. I think it's unhealthy. But, I'm an eternity guy. I don't go for all this time beginning and ending stuff. Now, Toronto poet Lillian Necacov has come out with an interesting little journal of the year we have just lived through, with a lovely cover. I think you can see the title, Il Virus. It's a selection of 133 poems covering a good part of that year, mostly brief exhalations of breath and thought and feeling. Number 47. There is weather in Billings, Montana. The border is a cloud. Medicine crow, high bird over whistling water. Yellowtail warbling, the battle of Bighorn. Sunday gone, great chief sleeps under a cold kiss sky. 48. This afternoon we ate beans. We were suspicious of no one. The sun was a little drunk and kept falling to its knees. A snippet of song wafted through our open window like rice paper. A Saturday like so many others, heartening us into the folds of future Saturdays. I like that. The folds of future Saturdays. 55. Beneath the 49th parallel of The Cruelty Project blows the house down, scrapes the skin off the living, leaves language voiceless. Meanwhile, well-mannered Canada, goslings and mucklucks are rewarded with peace, prizes under the flicker of northern lights. Ah yes, Canada. I live there too. 56. If I sewed my hands finger to finger, could there still be enough space enough for shadows? Would you watch as the needle loitered before moving through bone and tendon? And if later I removed the stitches to run each finger through your hair, would it feel different? Well, would it? 62. We move from the cabaret of nothingness to cabaret of the inferno, to cabaret of sky. Monks and whiskered men and garçons of heaven bring us spirits in the salle d'intoxication. There is cholera, envy, suicide, and consumption. And by God, there is gold and silver and song, and Father Time swinging his baton, conducting an orchestra through the great rooms of La Belle Époque. I know that one. 67. On the 46th day, children on scooters, skateboards, and tiny atrophied feet butch-whack the street, como vandalo, as if it were the holiest day of the year. Mothers and fathers sit vigil on euphoric verandas, reciting the second law of thermodynamics. There can be a predictability about surrealism. Too much effort reaching for the unexpected, I feel. And I see this in a lot of surrealist poets. But then some might say you'd see it a lot in conventional lyric poets too. But just a feeling. That doesn't mean I don't like it. But there's sometimes just a bit too much reaching. 74. Why are the Girl Guides wearing their hair like Lyle Lovett and reading the Scottish Witchcraft Act instead of collecting badges for kissing posters of K-pop boys and silencing the mouths of fatuous moon-bellied bastards? Oh, as if to critique my last critique. Well done, Lillian. That was a good one. 78. In this light our street becomes a deer, the trees billowing petticoats, the dandelions tiny heretics, the lost coins drops of the Milky Way, the chewing gum wrappers manifestos, the falling leaves librettos, the pebbles a kinder lexicon. A kinder lexicon, yes. We read from Susan Glickman's Selected on the last Poetry Show, 82. Here's a new book called What We Carry with an ever so cute frog on the cover. And a very pleasant book. I've been really enjoying reading it. And perhaps pleasant is rather underwhelming. And I don't mean it to be. It's a very pleasing ride on the lyric train. Very pleasing. And here's 5 short poems called 5 Urban Salutations. How's it going? Determined to cross before the light changes, bent at the waist, neck turtling up, arms rigid. She wills her heavy legs to lift and fall. The seconds tick down, flashing orange. Impatient drivers inch ahead. No one honks. Though a single cyclist slips by, agile as a fish, and a child in a cozy stroller asks his mother why that old lady is so slow before being hushed. Long time no see. Excuse me a moment. That frog snuck into my throat there. Long time no see. Winter flung fistfuls of wind in our faces, making us burrow into turned-up collars, wound round with woolly scarves. Slush layered over ice kept us studying our boots. Like beached seals, we'd become clumsy on land. We stuffed ourselves into streetcars, bulky duvets on a narrow shelf. No one met anyone else's eyes. It was too hard to look up, hemmed in as we were by backpacks and hockey bags. Groceries and gifts, and besides, hat brims were pulled so low. Dusk became paradoxical. Sunset more brilliant than ever. against bare black branches. Happy holidays. And here's an interesting word. The clerk with the mauve hymagiomia. No, hymangiomia. Covering half her face, looks up sharply, sensing my wincing glance, so I focus on her eyes and smile absurdly, which fools her not at all. Her life's been spent defying the rude pity of strangers and rejecting obvious solutions. Makeup or laser treatments, a career in telephone marketing. She will spare us nothing. No benevolent spirit granted her wish to pass through life unmarked and unobserved. A woman stacking cans, saving her paycheck to buy her daughter everything she wants for Christmas. Good morning. A pair of red-tailed hawks have returned to their nest high in the jack pine. Last spring they picked off 7 ducklings one by one. Each visit to the pond our count was lower. So this May finds the mallards brooding elsewhere. Still the place brims with life. Virginia bluebells make a lake in the grass. Cabbage whites hover like last night's dreams, and painted turtles sun on floating logs, indolent and fearless. Apparently seagulls let mussels drop to smash their cells and free the tender meat, but our hawks don't know that trick. Or maybe they're too full of chihuahuas and star-nosed new moles to exert themselves. Up on St. Clair, a Honda's carapace lies skewered on the streetcar platform. The road shines with 1,000 glass flowers. Somber. What's up? Telephone wires festoon the street, garnished with starlings. Advertising lapsed events, flyers flap from lampposts. Bouquets of brilliant balloons dance before a store like kids after too much cake. A jet trail scribbles music across the sky. Clouds sing the score, as far above the human range as those of whales and elephants are below it. Yes, far above the human range. That's poetry for you. Thank you for that, Susan. We'll return to this lovely little book another time. And continue with... did I leave a book over there? No, I didn't. Continue with the melodious, mysterious, marvelous language of poetry. Surely the best language of all. Why explain when you can sing a melody and make harmony with the myriad details of the world? That's what I say. Gord's Poetry Show 83, and July has us in its grip, even though it's only June. Got an early start this year. I hope weather's wonderful where you are, and not oppressively hot like here. And greetings all poetry lovers everywhere. Sayonara.